We'll just go ahead and get started. To the degree that you can, feel into the present moment with your body, minding our breath and the physicality of our skin as it touches the chair or bed and the floor. See if you can bring your heart to feel gratitude for just embodying this moment, because the Creator is always experiencing itself through us, but there's extra experience, intensity, and joy when the Creator as us acknowledges and feels into the divinity of the present moment. And so we ask that you bless this meeting tonight, and to whatever degree it helps illuminate our understanding of the nature of love in us, then we are happy. Amen.
Well, welcome to Dream Night at Bill 4th Tuesday. Good to see everybody. And do we have any dreamers tonight?
I had a dream.
Oh, great. Rudy, welcome.
Hello. So I was at the bottom of the ocean, but I wasn't scared. And I was completely like surrounded by an octopus, but I also wasn't scared. It was kind of slightly protective, but that wasn't the whole point. And I was just chilling at the bottom of the sea, wrapped in an octopus with no fear or thinking the situation was strange at all. And then I saw myself, and then that was it.
So it's like you stepped out of your body and looked at your body
Mhm.
from distance. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, from like 10 feet back
Nope.
at eye level before I woke up. And I remember thinking, that is remarkably bright for the bottom of the sea. And then that was when I woke up.
What color was the octopus?
Like red, like a coral, like a pink red. It was a very soft color. It wasn't bright red, it wasn't bright pink, but it was vibrant.
Question, Doug.
What happens? The law of one thoughts on it, but I'm interested in Rudy's. Did you have a sense of what it was when it came to you?
No, it felt at the time, no. I was noticing that I wasn't freaking out because I love the water and the ocean from an observer standpoint, but I hate being in that shit because you can't see, things touch you, things could bite you. I'm allergic to shit. I'm like, no, 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 no. I don't mess with it. Like not being in it. And so I remember being like remarkably like shocked that I had no fear or aversion to what was going on, like being touched by a sea animal, being in the sea, like in the open deep sea, which is like what I least want to fuck with in general in my waking life. Even though I think it's very pretty and should be conserved and protected, I just don't want to be in it. And like, yeah, that was the only thing I was thinking was how remarkable. This is very comfortable and very nice. And then when I started like thinking about it, I started getting possible ideas. But at the time, there was no innate sense of like, this is this. But I did know I was dreaming. I very much knew I was dreaming, but that was it.
Okay. And tell me your thoughts on octopi.
I think they're very smart. I think we should avoid eating them if we can. I think it's scary how smart they are, and they kind of move like spiders of the sea, but I respect them. And one of my friends for like 15 plus years, her whole brand for her artist studio and everything is like the cicala, the octopus. And so I'm like familiar with mostly through her because she talks about them all the time and draws them all the time. Yeah, I think they're cool. Are very smart, strange alien friends.
Okay.
I'm immediately thinking of three things. I haven't tied them together, but one is that it was underwater, so we're talking about the unconscious. Two, well, octopi have 8 arms. 8 is an octave, and that seems to be important, that you were at the bottom of the sea. And you didn't, did you use the word ocean or sea when you were talking about it?
That's a great question. I don't remember.
I think it was C, but
Yeah, I thought it was sea because sometimes the brain can go SEA and
Yeah.
SEE, like
Oh,
sea,
interesting.
but also,
Okay.
letter C, I guess.
yeah. And then we have the fact that it was colored in a soft kind of red, pink, feels a little bit like your body, the red ray, the
Yeah.
embodiment.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, those are my thoughts.
And you have a
Yeah.
lot of challenges both with Red Ray as well as survival.
Yeah. This is true.
Right?
Red Ray is where the party's at right now.
Okay. And look what but it's a very comforting symbol and a very intelligent symbol. Here's well, let's see. Here are some Jungian symbology understandings in the chat. Balance and integration. That whole movie Contact had octopi as the ETs, right?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And that whole kind of balance, and you kind of had to think differently to to communicate with them because it communicated on a rather than a linear basis, a kind of all around the circumference kind of basis. So it's a kind of very balanced number because it's balanced in all those different directions. They suggest infinity and cycles,
Mm.
personal power and manifestation, wholeness in oops, I didn't put that out. There you go. Wholeness and unity and order amidst chaos. Any of that resonate for you?
Order amidst chaos is interesting.
Tell us about that.
It could be in the sense of like the wider collective, the wider world, having a sense of order somewhere subconsciously. I don't know where it is consciously. And it could be on the micro level as things are getting sorted out in my individual world of a a sense of that grounding as things are going on internally possibly. But I think as I'm thinking through it, like just looking at the wider shifts and transitions and like depending on how you squint and which accent you're using, global chaos or global change, however you want to phrase it for the given day. And 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 a stillness somehow within that.
Hmm. And it seems like in your soul, you're reworking your foundations a lot, aren't you?
Indeed.
Your foundational way of thought, and your thought is very multifaceted. I've commented on how you think along a whole bunch of more axes than the average person, certainly more than me. And so I love that highly complex, highly intelligent, multi-axial reworking that's being done at your foundational level. So if that comes to mind for me, but when you think along the different angles that have been proposed to you, does this amplify any of the thoughts you've had about yourself?
I think that I think definitely the mention of red ray getting reorganized and rethought and re just being very present, I think is definitely for sure true. I often ask myself or my future selves, I'm like, at what point do I get to learn any lesson but the fucking red ray lesson? Like, because I've been on the red ray lesson for 6 years. Like, it's it's a very important one, so that's fine. That's fine. At least it's interesting. So I think that that's coming through a lot. And I'm also, as we've been looking at this, thinking of the sense of comfort that I had, and it was comfort despite things that I would be a hell no to if asked consciously. Like there is no situation in which I would be like, yes, that sounds like a fun thing that I would want to do, being at the bottom of this body of water with an animal around me. Absolutely not. But it was very comforting and it was quite peaceful. So I think there's something there along finding a place in the subconscious of comfort amidst very uncomfortable shit. I think that's what's kind of underlined as I'm listening to these different theories that I am very grateful to have to consider.
Okay.
Going on with what Doug was saying, one thing that I thought of too, you're at the bottom of the sea or you're at the bottom of the ocean. And if the ocean or a body of water kind of symbolizes your subconscious, maybe there's a sort of lesson there where at the very bottommost part of your subconscious, it's a very peaceful and protecting place.
It's giving still point. Like the way that you're describing that is making me think of still point, which is something that I've been chicken pecking at and working with loosely. Thanks for that connection.
Nice. And so, Elizabeth, how does an octopus compare with an eagle? You're muted, Elizabeth. You're muted, Elizabeth.
I don't know. Natural world.
That was kind of a stupid question. You can't compare one dreamer to another very well, but it is interesting to see the different symbols, isn't it?
Well, I think of an octopus as very intelligent, but also very powerful.
Mhm.
I-
That's yeah.
I mean, I don't know that much about an octopus, but is that for anyone here who does know something about octopus? I see how they swim. They have a very powerful swim. So would you think of them as being a powerful creature? I'm not sure.
They are hunters.
Mhm.
Ah, okay.
And they can jet water out their tube or whatever that thing is they have and go zip in the water.
Mhm.
And they're shapeshifters in that they can kind of wriggle their body around into funny little crevices and holes to find
Mhm.
what they look for. And they're also good camouflagers in the sense that with their body can change colors, but they can also obscure their enemies with the ink. And does that any of that sound like Rudy?
Master of camouflage.
What about adaptable? I don't know.
Yes, that has been in the job description frequently.
Yeah, you've had to be careful with how you expose yourself, haven't you? Because of your unusual gifts.
Yeah, and being Black, queer, and femme in America will do a lot. But yes, the other stuff too.
All of that, I guess. Any other thoughts about Rudy's dream from any quarter? All right. How about dream number 2 then?
I have one. Well, technically I have 3, but I'll get into that. So to start
Okay.
off, I
This
have
Duncan?
yes, yeah, this is Duncan.
Got it.
So I have a recurring theme, I guess, in dreams that I picked up on recently. And that theme is either a guru type figure that is able to transform into an animal or an animal that transforms into a guru type figure in my dreams. And this has happened 3 times. The first time this happened was maybe 7 or 8 years ago. In the dream, I was sitting on this park bench and I just remember looking out at this like forested, slightly meadowy kind of landscape. And I remember it being very colorful, very beautiful, very bright. And on right in front of me is flying this really big butterfly, like maybe 1.5 foot wingspan, like really large butterfly. And the wings of the butterflies, I remember it was only one butterfly, but the wings they were shifting colors, and they were very bright, very vibrant colors, almost like they were luminous, like they were emitting light kind of. But they would shift from this like wavy green to this red and then orange, purple, blue, and just all back and forth, just shifting colors. And I was enamored by this butterfly. And so it starts to fly towards me, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't want to scare it away. So I'm going to sit very still. And so the butterfly lands on my left shoulder. And I remember feeling the weight of the butterfly on my left shoulder. And I look over, like I turn my head slowly to look, and it's a woman laying her head on my left shoulder. And I remember being so impressed because I was like, the weight of that butterfly and the weight of this woman's head, that sensation did not change, but yet it's equivalent. Anyway, she started talking to me, and I forget our conversation because this was so long ago, but I remember she was giving me some kind of spiritual advice. And somewhere along that dream, my friends come off into the right side of my eyesight and like, hey, Duncan, let's go do this or that. And the girl that was sitting next to me, she's like, yeah, let's go. And so I stood up and I went to go with my friends, and I turned around and she was gone. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what she means by let's go. And that's all I remember of the first dream. The second dream, I was walking through this, like, I want to say either like Vietnamese or Taiwanese kind of rice field. And I was walking on one of the banks of the rice field, and we come across this little square of water, I guess, where there was no rice crops in it at that time. And it was a really deep body of water, apparently, because this monk, without saying a word, he jumps up into the air, turns into a dolphin, and dives into the water. But the strange part about that is I remember seeing him do that and immediately knowing how to do that myself. So I jumped up and I turned into a dolphin, and we started swimming under the earth in this very luminous, bright blue water that was tunneling all through the rice field that we were in. And that's pretty much all I remember of that dream. That was maybe like 4 years ago. And the latest dream I had happened just about 3 weeks ago. And in this dream, I remember I came to a friend's house, and it was a couple of my friends and one of my friend's girlfriends, and we were all just hanging out. And for some reason in the dream, I had work to go to in a bit. So I was like, I'm going to go sit outside and meditate before work. And so I go outside, and it's this big backyard, maybe about an acre, and it's fenced off on all sides. And so I'm sitting kind of near the house. It's dark outside. It's maybe 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in the dream. And behind the fence, there's this big forest. And I remember looking up at one of the branches, and it was really dark, so it was really hard to make out. But I swore I saw a monkey up on a tree branch. And I remember thinking in the dream, I was like, monkeys don't belong in Texas. Like, what's that doing here? So I was watching it for a bit, just like really curious. And then I see it jumps off of the tree branch and does a backflip and lands in the yard. And it's so dark outside, I don't see where it's at. And I was kind of getting nervous at this point because I'm kind of afraid of monkeys in real life because they can be so ferocious and strong. And I remember in the dream, for some reason, I had this giant bag of strawberries right in front of me. So I grab one of the strawberries and I throw it out in the yard to try to give it to the monkey. So I don't really see the monkey pick it up, but I assume it does because it comes a little closer. It's like starting to get some of the light from the house. Like I can see its silhouette in the yard. So I take another strawberry, throw it at it. He runs up and grabs it and eats it. And then the monkey comes up really close to me, and I'm really nervous at this point. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this monkey being this close to me, but I grab a strawberry and I hold out my hand to it. And the monkey snatches it out of my hand really quickly. And as soon as it does, the monkey immediately transforms into this Native American woman who's wearing like primitive clothing. Like she's wearing like, animal skin and like maybe hemp rope as clothing. And I remember that she didn't speak English, or she at least didn't speak to me at all, but we communicated in kind of gestures. So after she took the strawberry and turned into a woman, I had literally picked up the whole bag of strawberries and offered it to her. And she grabbed the strawberries and gave me this slight head nod and put her hand on her chest, kind of signifying like, thank you. And I remember she bent down and gave me some stuff that was in this like canvas pouch that she was holding. And I think it was a couple bags of chips. I don't know, like hot Cheetos or something, I think. And she looks at me again and she does this. She, with her right hand, she puts it over her chest and she kind of acts like there's like a pulsing heart in her hand. Like she kind of makes that pulsing motion with her hand. And I give her this puzzled look, like I'm like, what do you mean? And she points at my chest and she does it again. And I interpreted that as her saying like, you have heart, or you have a good heart, or something along those lines. And she walks away, and that's the last I remember of that dream. So those are the three dreams that I can remember that I've had that were of that theme.
All right, gang. Any wild thoughts? A lot of wild animals in these.
Yeah.
Well, I see numinosity with the butterfly, upper noose, upper unconscious, landing upon the left shoulder seems to me to symbolize his embodiment, because the left side is not only the service to self, say, but it's also the self that's limited, like you're one body instead of infinite bodies, So there's an affirmation of his embodiment there. And then it seems like the woman is an anima who is giving him spiritual advice, maybe sagial spiritual advice of a coming spiritual transition. But it involves playing. Let's play more. A butterfly plays as well. So then he goes off to his friends and plays. And then I see in the patties, the rice patties, I see again, we have water, which is unconscious, but we have the rice, which is nourishing because you're eating it. So it's nourishing to go in the unconscious. Dolphins, I mean, I think there's a lot of metaphysical stuff there, but they certainly play. They also are smart and have extra sincere perception, ESP or something. And so then I see the monkey as play again. Definitely more connected to embodiment and red ray, because you got the red ray strawberry that you're offering it, and then it transforms into, were you reaching to the right when the monkey was above you?
I did. So in the dream, how I remember it, I reached out to it straight ahead of me. And then as soon as the monkey snatched it away, I was immediately like holding my right arm up to the right as if I was looking up at her, handing her a strawberry.
Yeah.
In the dream, it made sense, but thinking of it physically doesn't make sense.
Well, this is interesting because in the first dream you had, the anima and the form of the butterfly landed on your left shoulder, which is, you don't control the left side. It stays. You control the right side, archetypally. And so she was sort of blessing your left shoulder. And then at the very end of this stream, this book ends where you, using agency, were able to reach up towards it on your right. And then again, another anima appears and seems to receive the gift and affirm your gift with open-hearted chakra, holding the heart. So it seems to me that was maybe a consummation of the transformation that began 10 years earlier or whenever it was. Anyways, just thoughts.
Yeah. Looking at these key interpretations in the chat, I thought this integration of instincts was particularly relevant in that of course, animals are often instinctual. Now you said some pretty instinctual things about monkeys too, that they're strong and kind of unpredictable, aren't they?
Yeah.
And so in each dream, you're in very harmonious, a little scary, but very harmonious relationship with your instinctual self. And I don't know, is that anything you feel? Do you feel kind of like a natural person, natural man, or just kind of
I do.
flow
Yeah.
easily with your body and your inner self?
Yeah, I feel like I am, like, not just physically in terms of like going out into nature and going on hikes and stuff like that, but also like mentally. I feel that.
Well, that seems to me to be a blessed state.
I have one question, if you don't mind. You mentioned rice paddies, right? But
Yeah.
you mentioned the one that you were standing in didn't have anything, right? It was already harvested. Is that right?
Yeah, like from my perspective, it was empty. Like there was rice fields all around us, but this little plot right in front of us was empty. And it ended up being this gateway into this really large chasm of water with all these interconnected tunnels that were glowing blue inside. Like it was really bright, even though it was underground, if that makes
Very
sense.
cool. I just find it interesting that all around you were rice paddies that were full, and the one that you mentioned was harvested, which is only done once a year, which is really interesting.
Huh.
So,
And I think
anyways,
it's important to point out too that that monk character that I was following in that the second dream, up until that point, I remember I was just following him along because he either wouldn't speak my language or wouldn't speak at all, which I guess is a theme that's worth pointing out now that I think about it. But anyway, I was following him along because I could tell that he kind of quote unquote knew something that I didn't. He was kind of further along on the path than I was. And he kind of understood that and was giving me the feeling of like, you know, follow me and do as I do kind of thing. And so I would follow him around through this dream, which felt for maybe like 10, 15 minutes. And then he jumped into the water as a dolphin. And then I followed him. And that's kind of where I brought you guys up to speed. And it's that's an interesting thought too, because the first dream, me and this woman had a direct conversation, with actual just speaking. And in the other two dreams, there was no speaking involved. It was either gestures or just a mutual understanding.
Could be a movement inviting you into more contemplative space as time had gone on in your life. One where you early stage spirituality is usually about talking a lot, and then by the end we're contemplative.
The one bit of analysis that my spiritual director taught me to do with dreams is sort of to ask it, is this a purgative dream, or is this an illuminative dream, or is this a unitive dream? And those are three stages of traditional spiritual development. Generally, right after we first awaken, we go through a purgation. We sort of rearrange our priorities and get over some of our bad habits and establish our disciplines and learn a faith tradition and sort of do a lot of foundational work. And that would be sort of the purgative phase. The illuminative phase is a more joyful time and not so much hard work, and where we're getting insights right and left, and we're feeling the blessings of the holy upon our life, and we just sort of seem to be on a roll. We then go through a kind of dark night of souls sometimes, and where our ego finally gives us its last stronghold of distrust or egocentrism. And the unitive way is sort of a time of great contentment where we're walking with God closely. And so when I asked my own self, which of these phases might these dreams suggest, and the great deal of harmony with them, of both instinct, which is more of a purgative kind of level, and but higher things too, like the sort of numinous symbology of the butterfly and things flying and things cavorting in the sea, and you have a good heart kind of theme. Is that's it all seemed very illuminative to me, which is the kind of intermediate stage of sort of abundant growth and insight growth. And I don't know
Hmm.
if that's gives you any thoughts about kind of where you're at in
Yeah, because the general feeling that I get is they're not so much lessons as they are affirmations. That
Right.
they're kind of just like, you're doing a good job, keep doing what you're doing, and maybe have a little change of perspective as well.
Right. But
That's
I
kind of the
think
general vibe that I get from them.
sort of how are your dreams? It says, here's how you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. That's how it feels. And they're so spaced apart too, like they're years apart. That it's not a common thing, but at the same time they're so vivid that I still remember them, years later, like 8 years later.
I thought it was funny that you were a bit ambivalent about the monkey coming up to you, but you still gave it food.
Yeah, I don't know why I felt drawn to do so. I think it was like, well, I have these strawberries here and there's a monkey here. Like, I guess it'd be better if it was my friend than my enemy. So that's a good point, though.
Well, the monkey was higher than you too. Was he in a tree or something?
Yeah, at first it was in the tree, on the other side of the yard, maybe like an acre away or a quarter acre away, I guess. And I saw it do a backflip into the yard, which I remember that distinctly. That felt very playful, which kind of brought my guard down a little bit. And I was like, well, shoot, that's not every day you have a monkey in your yard, right? So I guess I felt inspired to give it a strawberry.
Well, in symbology, things that are higher tend to come from the higher unconscious. And so if we think of this monkey as, yeah, he's kind of an instinctual dimension, but he's got a higher element. So he's kind of from the higher self, and that would be the direction of your growth. So this monkey's traits were agility and strength and what else?
Curiosity.
Okay. Are those traits of your spirituality or where you're headed right now? Are you more agile than you think you are in spiritual realms?
Yeah, that's a good correlation there. Because I feel adaptable when I'm kind of on that level spiritually and I'm encountering new experiences. And I usually surprise myself with how adaptable I can be for stuff like that. So yeah, that makes sense.
Oh,
Spiritually agile, as you put it.
okay. Great.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Any more dreams? All right. I'll make an offering here. This is April 1st. And so here's it is. Dr. John Shackelford, who is a psychologist friend of mine, experiences a paranoid breakdown due to tensions from the conspiracies and the breakdown of money. And those are things that are in the news. I could not find a place to sleep in my own house because there were so many family guests. Some were adopted black children. Then that same night, I dreamt later on that there was a lot of one-upsmanship among students at a program. This one-upsmanship surrounded a goal that they were going to do as a group. It was made a point to exclude me from one group. I took part actively with the others and caught a gooey ball. And then I made jokes about surprising girls with its gooiness, with the ball's gooiness. So that was my dream on April 1st. Not quite as idyllic as some of the others.
Were you your age now, or were you younger?
Pretty much my age now, I think.
What color was the ball?
Kind of gray,
You catch it with your right hand?
probably. I'm right-handed, but I don't. Probably, yeah.
Were the other people in the dream adults?
John Shackelford was. The people at my house who were taking up all the sleeping spaces were a variety of different ages. And then the students were like college age.
Well, you've got it all kind of summed up in old Shackelford. Even the name shackle,
Mm-hmm.
to shackle, to be shackled. And then Ford, is it Ford? Well, I mean, it sounds like Ford when you say it.
Oh yeah, it's F1.
Because for you, driving a Ford would be a step backwards in your life. You're Mr. Not Ford, Lexus or whatever. So, and then being a doctor and the one that had the paranoid issue here, a long running algorithm of lesser quality Ford quality that had been shackled there for a while. And the reason why I'm saying these because the others kind of lend itself to less numinous parts of you. You have the adolescent students who are vying for power, either or,
Mm-hmm.
and one was excluded you, which maybe I don't know how you would see that one, but the gooey ball, you got me on that one. That you ended up getting I just want to say congratulations, you got a damn gooey ball, but it's sticky, it's round. Oh, well, Rod does talk about catching the catalyst. The catalyst comes to you, and the adept specifically talks about playing catch. And for an adept, a wanderer, for example, who is born into third density, can learn wander adepthood, but has to be very attentive to the numinous things, or as Ross says, perchance the entity will let the sphere go by. It's just raw language for playing catch. But you caught that. You caught that. So you caught the catalyst that was offered there. Anyways, that's what I got.
Well, my life is very serene, and I'm always tempted because of conspiracies and news media and all that to fall into being highly suspicious of news media, political people, speakers on the internet. You name it, I can be suspicious of them. And in that suspiciousness, I have a hard time sometimes finding my own place of rest. That's all these family members. They're part of me. They're my family, but they demand attention and don't give me a place to rest. And my solution to that is not to pay much attention to them in real life. I notice the headlines on YouTube as I go around, but I rarely watch any of those discussions anymore. But I'm kind of aware of them in the background of the collective.
I'd be curious to know, Troy, if you had any sense of emotion, like there's no place for you, all the beds are taken, conspiracy. It almost has like an irritated feeling to it.
That would be accurate. It was kind of maybe halfway between irritated and perplexed.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good question. By the way, in that next dream of all the one-upsmanship, it's it felt very adolescent. And I kind of detest one-upsmanship. There was a lot of it in medical school, and I found it very distasteful, and I didn't like participating in it, and I couldn't compete either. So this is a kind of very ego alien situation for me. I kind of feel like there's a lot of that in the culture right now. Everybody's trying to one up the other and make their headline spicier and make their rant about the people they don't like meaner and that whole thing. But I didn't like it, but I went ahead and I was excluded at one point, but I went ahead and played the game a little bit and caught this gooey ball.
Define gooey in this instance. So was it sticky? Was it slimy?
Yeah.
Like what's the texture?
Sticky and slimy. Messy.
Sticky and slimy. Okay. Was there like a liquid like emanating from the ball, or was it just the ball itself?
It was surrounding it.
Hmm.
Quite frankly, the goo reminded me of semen.
Hmm.
And I feel like our society is sort of messy, but maybe there is some fecundity in it somewhere, that maybe there's going to be some good fruit that comes forth from it. I don't know. It's just a cr- creative and destructive mess right now, and I don't know if I think it bothers me more in the back of my mind than it does in the front of my mind, and maybe that's why it came forth in a dream.
Notice that it was gray, which is a non-committal color, kind of. So even the prize wasn't all that big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Gooey, seed, semen seed. So there's, it could be too much masculinity, or it could mean, as you were saying, almost like planting, like there's some kind of fructification that can happen there. But it wasn't much. It was gray.
Mm-hmm. So does
Fascinating.
anybody have any wisdom that they can help me with? My AI suggested that the gooey ball urges embracing messiness over performance perfection. I thought that was kind of clever.
Mhm.
Our society's very messy right now,
Hmm.
and we can catch the messiness and try to be a little playful with it. Make the girls scream or something.
That was my thoughts too, because your immediate reaction to it wasn't how unpleasant it was. You're like, oh, I bet this could get a good reaction out of the girls. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that's making the best of a bad situation, or your tendency to do so.
I think that fits me for sure.
And I thought was interesting was that all of the different scenes were of different breakdowns of maturity or infrastructure, and like something in the planning or sophistication of the rooms was off. And I'm wondering like how how agitated you addressed it a little bit, but it's like, were you like pissed? Were you like, why is this happening? What was the response to disorder?
John Shackelford is, as a symbol in my heart, is a beloved person, but I recognize he has some limitations of skill and different things. So I'm guessing he would represent maybe a part of me more vulnerable to the breakdowns than and paranoia. I kind of have to watch myself in those regards. Uh, Doug knew me in my more paranoid days. Right,
Well,
Doug?
we just walked each other right out of that.
Okay. All right. So our time is coming to a close. Do we have somebody who would like to close us, or give any final thoughts on these?
Final thought is, before it closes, next Tuesday is going to be our member presentation, or just dialogue time. And so I think we could just probably hang out and just have conversation. Would be nice. If anybody has anything they'd like to lead with, or any open questions too, just bring them. So looking forward to next week.
Guys, I did a presentation recently about the spiral path, the purgative, illuminative, and unitive ways, with slides and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if there's any interest in that. It's kind of rudimentary or foundational. It's not really law of one, but it is spiritual. Is there any interest in that topic, or is that kind of too old, too plain vanilla?
I've heard you do the presentation before, and I really like it. It was helpful just to hear it articulated by you. I think it would I think it would be important in a sense, because it's not just about Christianity or anything like that. It's people we know who engage with things like the law of one. Are they entering into that with unitive or purgative or illuminative? And maybe having a little bit of structure as a voice of the tradition might be cool.
Any naysayers?
About how long would it take? Would we have time for much discussion after it? What would you think?
I haven't timed it. I think it's about 40 minutes. Leave us maybe 20 minutes to discuss. Eduardo seconds doing that. I'll look at it and try to time it and see if it leaves us enough time to discuss. If it doesn't, I'll pare it down and figure out how to leave us time to discuss. Does that sound right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Who's going to lead us home? Somebody besides me and Troy.
And I will close this. Lord God, thank you that you have come to us in our dreams, and though they are shrouded in mystery, they do offer something for us to wrestle with and something for us to ponder and occasionally some encouragements along the way. So help us in our paranoid breakdowns, and thank you for the blessings of butterflies and dolphins and eagles, and let us continue to follow the mystery. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Master Troy. Always wonderful.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. Have a good night.
Good night.